Thanks so much for tuning in and joining me for this week's Oracle Outlook video reading. If this is your first time here, I'd like to say welcome. And if you're a returning viewer and visitor, I'd like to say welcome back. My name is James Mitchell, and I have been an Oracle card reader for the last 25 years. I started reading cards in 1999, and I started doing video readings in 2015 when I started my YouTube channel. So this week, I'm honoring the request of a viewer. Her name is Kelly, and last week, she sent me an email asking me if I would be willing to use Lenormand for this week's Oracle Outlook video reading. And of course, I try to honor all requests that come my way when they come. So Kelly was also under the impression that I would be using perhaps one of my own deck creations, because at this point in my card reading journey, I like to feature the decks that I have made for my own personal use, as well as those that I offer to the public via my marketplace site on Make Playing Cards. Their marketplace site, I have a space on there, so I sell cards, a few decks in that space. But interestingly enough, the Lenormand system is not one that I have felt the need to make my own personal deck. Usually, when I make my own decks, it's usually because either A, I don't fancy the artwork of maybe the more traditional deck that's in that system. For instance, the Gypsy Witch cards, which I made my own version because while I like the system, I really didn't fancy the artwork on the cards. Or there's something about the system that I want to kind of tweak or modify in a way that works better for me. So, but the Lenormand actually has not been one of those as of yet. So the deck that I'm going to be working with is one of my favorite decks that's out in the marketplace, and it is called La Faneuse Lilac Dondorf. This is by far my favorite Lenormand deck, so this is going to be assisting me. And if it is still available, because this was a reproduction of a classic Dondorf, I will make a point to leave a link to it in the description box below. So I have the deck here, deck in hand. I'm going to shuffle the cards, and I always start out when I do these general readings by shuffling a little bit on camera so you can see that the cards are being shuffled before I lay them on the table next to me. So I'm doing that just to get a good mix. Okay, so now I'm going to take the deck and move to the table. And as I always say when I do these general readings, while I'm shuffling, this is the point where I get to give my disclaimer that with this being a general reading, there's no way possible that it's going to apply to everyone 100% who land on this video. So I always encourage people to take whatever pieces of information that resonate with you and then just put the rest to the side. Okay, so I'm going to shuffle one more time. And just as I did in the previous installments of this video series, my favorite spread to use is a line of 5, so I'm going to be doing that. I'm now cutting the cards, and I'm spreading them out in a fan. And then I'm looking at the fan, at the cards that are getting my attention, and I'm going to be pulling 5 from the fan. Now they are all face down, so I don't know what they are until we turn them over and look at them together. Okay, so I have the 5 cards selected. And I'm going to start with the card on the far left, opening the line up. So this week we have opening things up. We have the Moon card. So the Moon in Lenormand is quite different than the Moon in Tarot, if you're a Tarot fluent or familiar with Tarot. Here, the Moon for me can mean a few things. Number one, it is the career card in the deck. So there may be something pertaining to one's career. And with that, I'm going to add one of the other meanings to it. The Moon can also be about either some sort of reward or some sort of recognition and an alignment with the career. So this could be in the form on the more benign side of the scale, where you receive some praise, and that could be a compliment, kind words, something like that, in terms of your work and your work over time, right? Career is, for me anyway, is something that we do work-wise, but over a period of time, right? So there's that. So it could be some praise, like that. It could also be on the other end of the spectrum where you receive some honor and some recognition of a grander scale, because those are also words that I attribute to the moon card. The other thing that I could say about this in terms of career, somebody may be at a place or a stage with their career where emotional satisfaction is key, because the moon card can also represent emotional satisfaction, right? So again, we have career, we have honor, we have recognition, and emotional satisfaction. Now, Lenormand is a system that you just can't really riff on one card and just call it a day. Lenormand is best read in combinations either of pairs, triplets. So we'll be seeing how other cards kind of combine with this to expound on or expand on this idea of career, honor, recognition, or emotional satisfaction. Okay, so the next card is the whip card. So here we have a little bit of a challenge. So there may be something having to do with career and then maybe training. This is a card for me, the whip card that is, that can talk about training, because I always imagine things like working out, being physically fit. So it could be like, yes, we're training our body, getting a workout in that way, or we're being trained in other ways. And so this would be the way that you might want to consider combining the two cards. It could also be about honor, recognition, that's being repeated or repetitive, because the whip card is a card that talks about things happening repeatedly, right? So there is that too. So it could be for somebody, there could be, this need in terms of career, for repetitive honor, repetitive recognition, maybe repetitive praise, something of that nature. It could also be that with regards to one's career, that there is something that's needing to be sorted through or being worked out. That's the whip card. For me, it can represent that we're sorting through something and we're trying to work something out. Right, so there is that. Now, if we go with the idea that maybe the moon card is talking about something on an emotional level or emotional scale, then this card here, whip, can talk about being angry, right? So there may be something having to do with heated words being exchanged. This is about arguments for me. So it could just be a matter of, in order to come to a place of maybe more emotional satisfaction, we kind of have to work through, sort through anger, and it may be expressed through heated words being exchanged, arguments, things like that. It could also be somebody's career as a fighter. This just came to me in the moment, right? Because this card can be about fights. And on the one end of the scale, because it seems like everything's about scales this week. On the one end of the scale, this could be about heated words being exchanged, debates, arguments. On the other side of the spectrum, it could be arguments, fights where we get, it escalates physically, right? So there is that. So it could just be a matter for people maybe this week, as the week unfolds, to honor and recognize when you might be feeling angry. To honor and recognize when you are feeling like you want to have heated words with people, right? It could be like the cards are maybe suggesting too that it's one thing to be angry. You could be angry, but it's a matter of how you're choosing to express your anger that may be the concern here, right? So there's lots of things. One of the beautiful things about Lenormand, and especially in general readings, the cards, when you're reading them in combinations, can mean just about anything, right? So this is where I say, take what resonates and then put the rest aside, right? So it could be somebody's, being honored, recognized, for something of a physical nature in terms of their work, right? So this could be somebody who's a bodybuilder, right? Somebody who's a fighter. I'm thinking like a prize fighter or a boxer. Could be somebody who does MMA. I'm just trying to riff off all the sports things that I can, because I'm not that much of a sports guy in my head. But I'm just thinking too that, this could be a week potentially where we have to kind of recognize when our buttons are being pushed and when we are feeling angry, right? So this might be a week where we're being encouraged to better practice anger management, yeah? Okay. So now I'm going to move to the middle card. This is interesting. So we had this happen last week, and it's happening again. So if you remember, last week I worked with my take on the Kipper deck system, and the man card showed up there, main person 1. But we have the man card showing up again here. So now, interestingly enough, here we have him as the focus. This is the third card in, and I always read the third card as like the focus of the line, the central issue of the line, or the heart of the matter of whatever the cards are trying to express. Yeah? So here we have that. And the interesting thing is that he's looking this way. So he's actually facing the first 2 cards. Yeah? Oop. So now this could be one of 2 ways to possibly approach this. So first and foremost, if you are a man watching this video, then the man card is going to represent you. If you are male presenting, this card is going to represent you. If you are a woman watching this, then it could say that a man is going to play a central role or part, center of the line, right, in a situation that's going to unfold for you this week. So now, if we go with the idea that we're honoring and recognizing maybe being angry with a man, right, then how are we going to work that out, sort through that, right? Then these 3 cards now, this becomes, the whip becomes the central issue or the focus, right? So it could just be emotional satisfaction with the man if I mirror the 2 cards, because mirroring is a technique where you take the 2 outer cards and you read them together as a combination, right? So here we have emotional satisfaction with a man or regarding a man, you know, recognition of a man, honoring a man, but here in the middle we have whip. So it could just be, you know, a man is being honored for his career, right? One possibility, especially if he maybe does something of a physical nature, you know, again, bodybuilding, boxing, MMA, you know, those kinds of things, something of that nature. Or he's a trainer, like a personal trainer, right? He may not be the boxer or the fighter that I keep seeing in my mind or keep reiterating, but he also could be someone who is a trainer of some kind, right? And he's being honored for that, right? But again, if those don't resonate, then the other thing here for me is about honoring or recognizing. I'd rather pick recognizing. Recognition of being angry with a man, right? So now, also too, line of sight, he's facing these cards. So this would be what he's facing in the future. So he could be facing some anger regarding his career. You know, maybe angry at not being recognized the way that he would like to have been recognized or would like to be recognized for his career, right? Or that a man is trying to sort through and work through what would bring him a greater sense of emotional satisfaction, right? Okay, so now let's look at the cards behind him. I'm going to hold this up because now the cards behind him, again, we're going to read it 2 ways. This could be the past, but since we're reading for the week ahead, then this could be, you know, inauspicious placement like last week, and these are challenges that he's going to have to consider. Even though the whip is a challenging card, this is great because he's facing it, right? It would show that he's willing to take the challenge head on, or he's willing to face the challenge, right? So behind the man, we have the fox card. I had a feeling that the fox card was going to turn up, so I love that. Just confirms deck choice, right? For me anyway, as a person reading the cards, it confirms deck choice, but it also confirms any intuitive promptings or impressions that I get prior to the reading, right? So now here we have the man behind the fox card. So I'm going to read this a couple of ways. On the far end, we had the moon card, right? Moon is career. Interestingly enough, the fox card, one of its meanings, depending on the school of Lenormand that you practice, it can mean job and employment. That's actually one of my meanings for it. So this could be an employee, right? And then we're looking at emotional satisfaction, right? Regarding the job or the work. It could also be somebody who is working more than one job, right? For me, the fox can represent job and employment, and we're having to do more than one thing to survive because the fox does what the fox does to survive, right? So there's something about that. It can also mean that something is wrong, something is bad, something is off, right? So now, let's take it into context here. So now we have the man with his back to the fox card, right? So this could be, if we're going with something that's bad, something that's wrong. So in the past, in the recent past, because of proximity, the recent past, there's been a mistake made, something was wrong, something was bad, right? Some kind of mistake. And then here we are having to face the consequences possibly of that mistake, right? So the whip card would be, oh, now I'm angry. So this could be somebody who's literally beating themselves up for something in the past, right? Something work-related, or there's a conflict with someone on someone's job, right? And you're being cautioned, if this resonates, you're being cautioned about the possibility of things getting heated, angry words being exchanged, and I would hope it would not get to this point, but the possibility of getting physical, right? So there's that. Now, it could also be, again, somebody's making plans, because another meaning of the fox card for me is about planning and strategizing, right? Because fox can be a card that would suggest being cunning, being clever, that kind of thing. So it could just be somebody who, again, is working as a trainer, right? Or, is going into a job situation where training is a part of the process, right? So again, I'm going to say that this card can represent a man's prior plan or strategy, and then needing to work that out, sort that out, right? Facing that. Or there's an issue with the man's job or employment. This could also be, I just realized, another meaning of the fox card for me can be about craft or skill, right? So there may be something about somebody getting training to improve their skill, right? Or improve their craft, right? And it would be something that's repetitive, right? It reminds me of like the professions where people have to get certified after every so often in terms of periods of time. So it makes me think of something like that. That's just what's coming to me in the moment, right? But it could also be a man who's working through some issue with something that was wrong, bad, or off, like a mistake in the past, right? And then we have the final card. Here we have lilies. So now, interestingly enough, lilies for me is a card that can represent the past because it talks about things that are old, right? Another meaning or a couple of words that I have for lilies is knowledge and wisdom. So here we have something having to do with maybe one's wisdom or experience. Experience is a better word. Experience with their job, right? Job experience, right? And then we have the man. So it could be that there is a man, right, who is looking for maybe new work, right? Who's maybe repeatedly on the job hunt and is looking at or basing the new search or the new work based on past experience. Yeah, so there is that I want to offer, right? And then it would end with some sort of emotional satisfaction, but having to get through the challenge of maybe the repetition and maybe getting to the place where we have to kind of work through our anger, maybe about how long it's taking to find something new, right? So there is that as a possibility. I'm looking to see what else I want to say in the line. Now, if I go with something maybe a little more controversial. Okay, so here we have the man at the center of the line. Then we have the fox card. Now, the fox, in the challenging sense, can represent a cheat, right? It could represent a cheat. So here we have sometimes in Lenormand that the significator, the man is a significator card, excuse me, then the surrounding cards or the cards that are next to him would describe him in a way. So here we have maybe somebody with red hair, right, because the fox has red fur, right? So somebody who has red hair or somebody who is a cheat, right? And then who cheats repeatedly, right, with these three cards, right? So there is that. And then here we have with the lilies behind him, somebody who has like a history of cheating, of being a cheat, right? And so that could be like in a relationship, or that could just be with people across the board, like the person just cheats people, just generally speaking, right? And then it might be that people become angry with this person, right? So then facing anger repeatedly over the past of cheating people, right? So this could be a situation where somebody's past is coming up to kind of bite them in the butt. And then if I read it that way, then the moon card, which actually started the line, but it changes because of the central card being the gentleman card and then line of sight, right? So then this might be what he's facing in the future. So then the moon card for me, in terms of timing, could represent something having to do with moon phases. So it can represent night, right? Because the moon comes up at night. So it could represent nighttime, evening, can represent moon cycles, lunar phases, something of that nature. I personally read it as, you know, a month in time. You know, if we go with the cycles of the moon. So I tend to read this as a month in time, right? So it could be that a person, man in particular, is going to be facing anger from people based on his past and maybe being found cheating people over the course of the upcoming month. So those are just a few ways to read the line. At that point, I'm going to leave it there. If you hung out with me this long, I want to thank you for sticking with me all the way through the video. I so appreciate the gift of your time. I know these days, with so many things that you could choose from, I'm always so grateful that people choose to spend their time with me and watching the videos. So Jameson Mitchell signing off. I look forward to seeing you again in this space with another Oracle Outlook video reading. So until then, I'm hoping that you're having a wonderful day, and I hope that you have a wonderful week. Take care.